won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? My friends all drive Porsches. I must make amends. Worked hard all my lifetime.
AM 1220 KHTS. I was just getting into the Janis Joplin mode here.
We're going to talk about that song every time we hear you. It's hard not to. It's
definitely. Lenny Sage is here with us, the owner of our own local Mercedes-Benz of Valencia. We're here talking about cars, talking about buying a car, buying a used car versus a new car, leases versus purchasing. And before the break, I said I was going to come up with this. CNN just ran a list of the top 10 questions all of us need to know and need to ask before buying a car, before buying a new car. We're going to look at buying a used car later on this hour. But right now, and Lenny, I'm sure I'm not going to stump you, but let's just start. I'll go right down the list. Do I prefer a domestic or an import brand? Does it matter anymore?
You know, obviously, I'd probably be partial to imports because all of the stores that we have
right. Let's see, we've got Nissan, Mercedes.
We have 3 Nissan dealerships: Mercedes, Toyota, Infiniti, and we're opening Kia actually this week in downtown LA. But you know, I'd like to say my answer today is different than it would have been 20 years ago. I think everybody's really building a good car today. You know, the technology that goes into these cars, the safety components that go into these cars now is pretty much the same across the board. So I don't know that there's it really comes down to I like to use ice cream as an example. I mean, what flavor of ice cream do you like? I mean, that's really the main guide that should lead you. I mean, I would stay away from some products that may be entirely unsafe. I hate tiny micro cars. I mean, I'm not a big fan of those. We sell a couple of them, but I'm not a big fan of micro cars. But as far as quality, fit, finish of these cars, everyone today is building a good car, domestic or import. Maybe imports still have a slight edge, but that gap's been closed significantly over the last few years.
Also, many of the cars, the import cars, are assembled here. Some are actually built here, so it's really mixed and matched.
I got a great story. I was in Detroit a few years ago, and I went to Winnipeg. I don't remember what we were doing in Winnipeg, but part of the meeting was taking us to Winnipeg, and I'm on the bridge coming back into Detroit from Winnipeg. You know, they're just right across the bridge from each other, and I'm going back into Detroit, sitting behind a truck full of Chrysler minivans that were assembled in Canada and now coming into Detroit. So, you know, you never
made
really,
in America.
Yeah, you never really know. I mean, we have, you know, most of the imports build anywhere from 40 to 60% of their entire vehicle line in the United States. Toyota does, Nissan does, Honda does, and then of course the domestics build in, you know, Mexico and Canada. So. And now China. So you never really know where the car's actually being built. I don't know if it's as relevant to the quality, safety, or finish of a car anymore because the tolerances from a quality standpoint are very, very low, and they're driven by technology, and the technology is very, very good in manufacturing today.
And actually, I was talking with Don Fleming, who owns Valencia Acura.
Don who?
Yeah, Don who, yeah. There's no competition here, but I was talking to him right after the tsunami had hit in Japan.
We love Don, by the way. Everyone loves Don.
The tsunami had hit, and we were talking about how that would impact Valencia Acura, and of course there was then a challenge with getting new cars. But what I learned, and I didn't know, was that the parts of the challenge was they didn't have enough parts to assemble the cars because of the plants that were near the nuclear power plant. But what I learned was, at least on Acuras, the new parts were all manufactured in Japan, but the new parts for their older Acuras were all manufactured here in the United States. So if you needed a muffler for 2006 Acura, no problem, because that was being built here. So it was my first realization of how much it's mixed together.
About 10 or 15 years ago, there was a federal statute that required the parts content labels be put on every car that has a certain amount of percentage over a baseline. So you'll see now on most cars a parts content label where these parts are coming from, and you'll be surprised to see how global the parts supply component of building a car actually is. The cars come from parts come from everywhere now, and you know, in what's important for people to understand is that a 50-cent part can keep a $50,000 car from being built. And if you can't get that, doesn't matter where it's coming from. The production on that particular car stops, and the production line stalls for just one part. You can't not build a car without a part, as small or inexpensive as that part might be. So that's the. Everyone got impacted by the tsunami. It was the domestics got impacted. Some got impacted worse than others, but everyone got impacted, and it tightened up the supply chain for everybody. Some worse than others. Acura, Honda, Toyota, tough time. Nissan, not so tough. Mercedes-Benz, not so tough. BMW, not so tough. So it was in Ford, Chevy. Everyone got impacted.
I'm going to shoot down at question number 2. Do I need or just want a large new car, a medium-sized new car, or a small one? You addressed the small one, or at least the micro.
Well, the micro cars I'm not a big fan of, because I think we still live in a world where people love their big SUVs. No mistake about it. You see them on the road. They're huge, and just from a matter of physics, you look at these big SUVs, and we also live in a world where people text. And a big SUV hits one of these little micro cars, and it's not going to end up well. I don't care how safe the car is; it's just not going to end well. Physics is physics, and that's really my philosophy with about safety. So I don't, and I'm not necessarily saying big cars are better. I'm just saying bigger is heavier, and it might be safer. But bigger to small, it really depends on what you like, and what suits your needs. I think you pursue what you need from a practicality standpoint and from what you like, and that's the first answer to that question. What do you want? What do you like? What do you need?
Also, geographically, out here in Santa Clarita with all the space and everything, there are many more big cars than if you go down to Beverly Hills, or I was just in San Francisco, and having a big truck in San Francisco doesn't necessarily work so well.
Right.
When trying to find a parking space.
Exactly right.
We're going to take a short break chatting with Lenny Sage of Mercedes-Benz of Valencia. We're going to go down the rest of the top 10 questions from CNN that we all need to know before buying a new car. Right after this, your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS.